Okay. So again, today we'll be covering operationalizing with VMware NSX. And last month on the Rolta AdvizeX webinar series, we covered the overview of VMware NSX. And in case you missed the last month's session, you can find it on YouTube of Rolta AdvizeX channel. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel today. And today, we'll be talking about operationalizing with VMware NSX. We'll break the sections into people, processes, and architecture, and discuss how to transform your network and security operations. This webinar is based on more than 100 enterprises that have successfully operationalized NSX already. All the best practices and guidances are based on production customers. And I'll show you that operationalizing NSX is not complicated. You can make minimal incremental changes on your way to successfully operationalizing NSX. Network virtualization represents a major advancement in helping organizations realize the benefit of speed, agility, and security. And with operational efficiencies, the customers can derive the maximum value of VMware NSX. This slide shows the maturity model of IT organizations. Teams are siloed and skill sets were specialized historically, but more and more, the teams are becoming blended and being cross-trained. Many of the manual processes are being automated, and legacy tools are being replaced with modern integrated solutions. And some of the customers are implementing leaf-spine infrastructure, and most of you have virtualized majority of your servers. So you can put a slider on each of these columns to see where you are in a maturity level, a maturity model of NSX operations. Network virtualization offers the potential to unlock organizational strength and major benefits of transforming how work gets done across the technology organizations. It also represents a change that needs to be carefully considered to ensure clarity and alignment across the organization. Ensuring you have an agile organizational structure with blended teams that have clear roles and responsibilities will allow you to derive the greatest outcomes and value for your organization and staff. We provide information on guidance on organizational structures, internal engagement and communication strategies, and roles and responsibilities. Network virtualization provides tremendous opportunities to increase productivity through the automation of manual processes across the application lifecycle, defining an ideal future state for how you provision, manage, and monitor applications and services will allow you to move away from unnecessary existing processes and practices. We'll give you guidance on how to think about automation, process management, tooling, and some interesting use cases. Also, one of the main advantages of network virtualization is the decoupling of network and security functions from the underlying physical network infrastructure and abstracting them into a virtualization layer. This allows you to better architect and manage your infrastructure moving forward. We will provide guidance on architectural best practices, incremental implementation of infrastructure, and periodic rollout of new capabilities. The first topic we want to address is people. The organization, teams, and individuals who comprise a technology organization responsible for the end-to-end delivery and management of apps and services, and ultimately the driving force behind the successful operations of network virtualization and security. Here's some mythbusters. Myth number one, the software-defined data center is going to automate me out of a job. Well, you will not be automated out of your job. You'll be automating repeatable tasks and focus on developing and maintaining policies and blueprints, as well as planning for the future. Myth number two, network functions will be absorbed into the virtualization team. Well, your job will not go into the virtualization team. Network and security engineers will continue performing their existing job functions, just with a new set of tools. Myth number three, a virtual overlay is going to make my job more difficult. Well, overlay does not make the job more difficult. In fact, just like the server virtualization did for the servers, network virtualization will make managing a network more simple and efficient. In a traditional hardware-defined data centers, siloed approach work really well. But as your organization matures into the private and hybrid cloud, teams will need to be blended more and cross-train each other, and from operations and engineering, as well as architectures. And here are the top 3 best practices for people. The first one is start with a small cross-functional team in your progression toward network virtualization. If you're able to move from silo to blended teams, do so in stages over time. The second one is align with a shared strategy that has well-defined goals, objectives, measures, and incentives. Your team should have a service-oriented approach and be collectively responsible for the entire service delivery lifecycle. From business requirements to operating and managing a high-quality production workload that is backed by an SLA. And thirdly, it is also wise to evangelize that project across the lines of business or the entire organization. The goal is to build a critical mass of people who support the project and to establish the platform as the de facto way of doing things. Share interesting stories about the business and IT outcome of the project. Celebrating success, both small and large, is the hallmark of high-performing organizations and should be considered an important best practice in technology change management. Based on real-world experience, the most productive teams are tightly woven, highly collaborative, and self-sufficient. These blended teams are proven to work more efficiently with shorter cycle times, with condensed and amplified feedback loops, and with more knowledge sharing and continuous learning. When engaging networking and security on the project, explain the potential personal and professional growth. As you virtualize and automate the infrastructure, your network and security staff will gain more time to work on new and interesting projects, and they can focus on strategic initiatives that deliver higher value to the business. Next is processes and toolings. In this section, we will explain the impact network virtualization has on operational processes, describe the steps you should take to dissect and understand your existing processes, and make recommendations on how to evolve your processes and tools to take full advantage of network virtualization and security. And again, here's some mythbusters on processes and tooling. Myth number 1, the virtual networks adds complexity to the existing processes. Well, the fact is, virtual network brings agility and simplicity to the processes. There will be more integration and automation and more streamlined operational procedures. Myth number 2, You need separate tools to manage virtual and physical networks. Well, the fact is, existing management tool can monitor both physical and the virtual networks. Myth number 3. The network virtualization reduces visibility. The fact that overlay happens right at the hypervisor, network virtualization provides more context and visibility. So these are the myths here. And again, top 3 practices or processes and tools. Do not simply retain all existing processes with NSX network virtualization and security. Doing so will degrade the benefits and cost savings you would otherwise achieve. So identify and understand all of your existing network and security processes. Understand the impact network virtualization has on all the processes, such as application provisioning, configuration management, change management, capacity management, and incident and problem management. Secondly, you will want to understand how these processes work today from end to end, and how they can be simplified and streamlined via automation and orchestration. You will find that existing processes or steps can be significantly streamlined or even deprecated in some cases. And thirdly, after you have taken a thorough inventory and determine your priorities for automating these networks and security processes, and for quick wins, focus on addressing areas that are higher value and low effort. And do not try to streamline too many processes at one time. Choose 1 or 2 to get started. And finally, the hypervisor is ideally and uniquely positioned at the boundary between the physical and virtual world. And because the NSX vSwitch sees every packet as it enters and leaves a VM, it provides the highest level of visibility and context. It can also correlate the fluid relationships between applications, virtual networks, physical networks, and more. Network virtualization and NSX gives you a great reason to assess how you're doing things today and define a better, more efficient way to move forward. Fixing all processes feel daunting, so take an incremental approach to automating your processes to avoid paralysis. Lean and continuous improvement methodologies are great ways to move forward. Policy-based provisioning of networks and security brings agility and eliminates configuration errors. Automation and higher visibility are other key benefits of NSX. So NSX has native capabilities to integrate with VMware or third-party tools using APIs and so forth. So identify what tool gives you visibility into the object relationships between virtual and physical compute, storage, and network infrastructure. And correlation across the infrastructure domains helps to quickly narrow the scope of an issue to a particular domain and reduce the need to have multiple domain-specific tools. And these are some of the partner tools that can fully integrate with NSX. And actually, Arkin tools have been purchased by VMware, and it's part of the vRealize log insight for network. And now the architecture. In this section, we will explore the architectural and infrastructure considerations when planning, deploying, and operationalizing network virtualization in NSX. And again, here are some mythbusters on architectures. A tightly integrated system from a single vendor is the best approach. Well, tightly integrated system from a single vendor is not always the best. Network virtualization removes the dependencies of the underlying physical infrastructure. So carefully assess what approach works the best for your organization. Myth number 2, network virtualization requires a re-architecture of the physical network. Again, there are no dependencies on the underlying physical infrastructure. There's no need to re-architect your physical network. Myth number 3, overlay networks are inherently difficult to manage. Well, in fact, overlay networks are proven to be flexible and easier to manage. You get to take advantage of policy-driven security and the power of automation to improve the management of your network. And here are top 3 best practices on architecture. NSX network virtualization is not an all or nothing proposition. So NSX virtual networks do not require changes to the underlying physical network. And network virtualization can transparently coexist with existing application deployments on a physical network. The technology organizations have the flexibility to virtualize portion of the network by simply adding hypervisor nodes to the NSX platform. So incremental deployment is one of the best practices. And secondly, with NSX, the physical network architecture is designed simply for connectivity and performance. And that may be as simple as an L2 fabric that you're already using today, or an L3 fabric based on a leaf spine architecture. You can start with the former and gradually move to the latter. And thirdly, NSX does not impose hard requirements on where L2 boundaries are drawn. Configuration changes to the physical network should be relatively infrequent because it is just providing a connectivity among hosts. And this helps to avoid manual configuration errors. And decoupling of network services and topologies from physical hardware has enabled L3 spine leaf fabrics to become widespread. And this allows you to establish a common platform with the same logical networking, security, and management models. By abstracting the virtual network topology, as seen by VMs, from the physical topology, the NSX makes a change in network architecture more feasible. NSX frees network designers to more easily move to the spine leaf architectures that use L3 routing and non-blocking ECMP between top-of-rack switches. So the leaf spine architecture becomes much more feasible with the network virtualization. And underlying physical network is free to evolve independently from the virtual network. And its architecture is designed around criteria of scalability, throughput, and robustness. And single device or link failure shouldn't affect application connectivity. So putting all of these we just talked about together, the engineers can become more service-driven and respond faster to business needs and allow you to focus on higher value initiatives. With new and improved processes, you will now have better coordination of infrastructure deployment and make more tightly integrated design decisions. And when needed, resolve the incidents faster. You will also improve the ability to meet the SLAs, streamline the service lifecycle, and transition to a proactive approach. The operations transformation results in big outcome and rewards. Choose people for the initial team who are change agents, subject matter experts, evangelists, and respected leaders. Find the people who everybody wants on their team. People who know how to build interpersonal relationships, open communication paths, and identify and minimize point of frictions. The champions who encourage others to make the change and lead by example. If the team is not co-located, bring them together at the beginning of the project for a couple of weeks. We also recommend that you start with a single use case and set of applications. Identify workloads with an attractive risk-reward profile to leverage new capabilities for your first implementation. And for your first implementation, choose workloads that are low risk, but they have high enough complexity for the purpose of validating the NSX in your environment. And the organization's innovators and forward thinkers have an opportunity to contribute to the networking and security transformation. The outcome will be beneficial to those who drive the transformation, just like it was for those who championed and built their careers in IP networks, and more recently, compute virtualization. In both cases, new breeds of administrators and engineers were born with new skills and knowledge, and participating in the transformation will enrich people professionally and increase their opportunities and value in the job market. Many have done it, and it's not complicated. There are minimal changes, incremental changes. So where should you start? The NSX documentation are always a good place to start. But you can engage AdvizeX, Rolta AdvizeX, and we'll be happy to come to your organization and give you a technical deep dive. And there are VMware official training and certifications available also. And this is a golden era with networking. So at this time, I'd like to open the floor to the questions. If anybody has a question, please type them into the chat window. Is this fully cloud-based? So no, NSX is not a cloud-based technology. It needs to be implemented. It can be implemented into the cloud. Certain cloud provider supports NSX. So you can implement NSX in your premise as well as cloud. So you can manage the same policies on-prem as well as cloud, but it's not a cloud-based technology. Any other questions? Okay, I guess there's no more questions. So I'd like to end the webinar at this time.